right, we are going to get started here as other people trickle in. Please feel free to fill out the poll that we have up as we get started. Thank you so much for joining us today. We're very excited to have you here. And hello, everyone. On behalf of Library Makers, I'd like to welcome you all to Sewing in Makerspaces. My name is Marnie Balint. I'm the Experiential Learning Supervisor over at Skokie Public Library just outside of Chicago. And I am a member of the Events and Programs Committee for Library Makers. So very excited to have you here. We're very excited to have you for this program as well. I think people are still going to trickle in for the next few minutes, so I'm going to leave this poll up for just a moment. Library Makers is a community that connects and supports library staff from all over the country in libraries big and small who are all at different points in their maker journey. Whether you're just getting started or you've been making for many years, we welcome you to our online community. LibraryMakers.org has its own social platform where you can connect and get to know one another, share questions, ideas, and resources, enjoy blog posts on relevant topics, and peruse a video library of past events. Please note that today's event will also be recorded. Before we get started, I have this poll in front of you, so please, if you haven't filled out, please do so, and we can get to know our audience a little bit better. This really helps us figure out if we have a mix of public and academic libraries represented today. We can see what we can do to help better facilitate more workshops and programs that we do with the Library Makers community. It just gives us a better sense of who we're serving and how we can provide support. So thank you so much. Information like this is so helpful. We encourage all of you to also go back and fill out your profile on Library Makers so others can know a bit more about you and can more easily connect with similar interests or similar regions. So that is also really helpful. And now, any last minutes, I'm going to end this poll, but we also have an end survey too that we'll be able to get some more information from people as well. This is awesome. Thank you so much for filling this out. Great. You can see that we have the majority of people from the Midwest, which is really cool. Most people from public libraries, most people from suburban areas. So that's really awesome. Thank you all for sharing that information with us. And so now I would like to share with you and introduce Ellen Brown, who is the owner of Sew It Workshop. It's a pop-up and virtual sewing studio that specializes in libraries. She is located in New Jersey. And she is our presenter today who will share more information with us about sewing and makerspaces. So for now, I will stop sharing my screen, let Ellen share hers, and we'll go from there. One more thing to say is if you have any questions during Ellen's presentation, please feel free to put them in the chat. At the end, we'll have a little bit of time for Q&A and we can go back through the questions. And so you don't have to remember everything that you're trying to ask. All right, Ellen, whenever you're ready, you can share your screen.
Okay, great. I think I will just make a couple of comments before I start. Oh, there you have it on speaker view. Awesome. Thanks so much for inviting me. This is so fun and exciting for me. And I hope that everybody will see something that they can take away and use today from this presentation. I want to give a special thanks to Marnie and also to Ivan Silva and for making this happen. And then especially to Pamela Van Halsema. I'm not sure I said that right, but she's the one who gave me a flyer at the American Library Association in San Diego a couple of years ago, where I was exhibiting and said, please come after hours for just to get together with other makers. And that was just so awesome, so warm and welcoming. So thank you. And I am thrilled to be here. I am such a library fangirl, and I always say that because I feel like libraries are such a wonderful place of discovery, and librarians are, kind of live that. And so for me, it's just wonderful to be a part of that discovery and that helping patrons to find maybe what's going to be a new part of their best self. So this is great. But let's jump in with that those few words. Grab a cup of something and let's go. Gonna share my screen. Oh, whoops. Sorry, I thought I had done this, but I went back to the library makers for something else. All right. Okay, there, hopefully everybody can see that. And on mine I had a little pointer, but I'll do my best in any case without that. So I'm uh, excited to talk about both hand sewing and machine sewing in makerspaces and the kinds of things that um, can be super fun, I think, for your patrons. A little bit of background about me, and again, it's Ellen Lumpkin Brown, and um, this is my sort of brainchild. I've always lived a crafty life, and a few years ago, I designed a popular do-it-yourself doll, and I bring that up. It's a sew-it-yourself doll. That's the picture of them. It became the subject of a book, and I became an instructor for all kinds of sewing later on. But I bring this up because it really illustrates my ethos in sewing. I feel like sewing is power. It makes you powerful, and it offers choice. When you look at these dolls, you can choose the eyes and the expression and the hair and the skin tone, all of those kinds of things, whatever kind of combination the maker wants to put together, they can do. And of course, sewing gives you so many opportunities for self-expression, to live your values. I'm very interested in sustainable living, and so you'll see some of that as I walk through. And then craftivism, where I believe that sewing can give your patrons a chance to take action on things that are important to them. And then blending it with makerspace machinery just amplifies it all. Um, just about Sew It Workshop itself, before the pandemic, I did in-person pop-up sewing studios for um, ages from really 6 to 86. A little exaggeration there, or is it 8 to 108? But and that gave me a chance to work in libraries and to really get to know um, what kinds of programs would be exciting, what kind of projects would be exciting. And I've had the chance to work in quite a few maker spaces, which are listed there. I won't go through them. Um, but then when the pandemic hit, like everybody, I pivoted to something different, but that would still build on my skills. And so I began doing hand sewing videos that I still do now, that are accompanied by kits that patrons can use, or really good supply lists that librarians can use to assemble materials if they want to do it that way. And this little triptych gives you an example. Can you see the whole thing? Okay. Of how it works, where the patron sees me, and these videos are geared toward from teen or tween up through adult. And then they stitch, and then they make something that they like, right? Um, So today, I hope to really show you some great ways to combine the machines that are typical of makerspaces, and some that maybe your library doesn't have a makerspace, but you still want to do things that combine technology and sewing. And so I'm going to talk about some super common pieces of equipment like copiers, but then also Cricut machines, 3D printers, laser printers, and even maximizing some free software for making with sewing. And then what about the sewing part? Just a few things I think make for a good set of sewing supplies to have on hand. Some needles with big eyes so that they're easy to thread, right? Embroidery floss or craft cord, needle threaders, and I'll show you the kind that I like to use. scissors, pins, and then for sewing machines, um, regular thread, because of course the floss wouldn't go through those. So let's jump right in and start off with copiers. And I don't know if you are aware that you can actually create fabric with your copy machine. Custom fabric, it can be in a small size that people can use for different kinds of projects, and it's so easy to do. Here in this picture, you can see patrons drawing out designs. And then this happens to be my favorite fabric sheet, but there's lots of them that work. This one also, you can get 30 in a pack, but you guys might be able to get more than that. But there are lots of different brands, and I am not a paid, whatchamacallit. Okay, so there are lots of different brands that will all work. I like this one because it's art-based, and so I think it takes dye really well. But you can also cut your own lightweight cotton fabric, the same size as printer paper, so 8.5 by 11. And if you press freezer paper onto the back of that with an iron, you can run that through your printer on the manual feed as well. And it will print right on the fabric. You can cut out the images, and it's easier to cut the fabric sheet before you take the backing off of it. That brings it through the printer. And then you can hand sew that or machine sew it onto felt or other fabrics. And here are some examples. Some are of my students, some are not, but where they have made pillows, just, you know, normal way you make a pillow. You sew the 3 sides together, and then, or 4 sides, leaving an opening, and stuff it. This one here, they may have sewed each one of these pictures on separately. Down here, these images were cut right around the outside of the individual and then hand sewn onto a piece of artwork. And then this one I wanted to show you because you can print the picture, but you can also use software. There's one called Rapid Resizer, and I'll have all of this in a document for you, but where you can turn this one into a stencil like that, and then you can patchwork something like that together with the sewing machine or by hand. This one is using the entire picture as the image for the project. So they're a lot of fun. It's really not hard to do. And depending on how you organize it, that can be a 1 to 2 hour workshop. And then I wanted to show you something else. I'm actually going to stop sharing for a second and switch to my camera to show you a way to make your own stuffing. And I have this picture up because I had gone to this library to teach making stuffed donuts. And this young woman here and her friend, they were so excited. They made the donuts, but they really wanted to make the stuffing. And I think that that's partially because it's a sustainable, it has sustainability aspects to it, and they wanted to do something where they knew they were taking action right that day. So let me just switch to the other camera, and I am back, and I'll show you what I mean. Okay, so here are my scissors, and here is some bubble wrap. This could also be a plastic bag or something, but you just roll this up, right, as tight as you can. I'm going to cut this off because I don't need to show you everything. Right, but pretend like I rolled that whole thing. And then all you do is cut this into fine little shreds like that. And they really enjoyed it. It's repetitive. It's kind of soothing to do. You don't need any special scissors. These are just ordinary, these are not fabric scissors or anything like that, right? And once you have finished, you end up with a pile of stuffing that is really, there we go, that's really lofty and nice and not too messy, right? That you can use to stuff things. And um, here's an example. Actually, I'm going to show you that on the other camera of something that was stuffed with this. I also wanted to show you how you can take scraps and make those into stuffing. So I'm going to put these into my bag. You'll see it in a second. Okay, so if you have little leftover scraps, you can get your very worst cutting mat, the one that's all nicked up, and then your scraps. This is felt, it's thread, it's fabric, it's everything. And then for this one, you do need a rotary cutter. And you want to put one hand behind your back. I always tell teens to do that so that you don't have your hand down where the rotary cutter is going. But then you just work your way through this like that. And eventually, this will quickly, let me move this part out of the way, make its way into a nice kind of stuffing that's a little denser. If you wanted to make something that had that kind of need, right? And it goes very fast. And oh, also, if you do have any questions that are burning, please, bring that to the attention of Marnie or Kelly. I'm happy to interrupt. Okay. Um, so let me go back to the other camera and show you. Okay, so this is project. This is called the Best Friends Forever pillow. But if you hear it, I don't know if you can hear it, but that's stuffed with everything's upside down for me and backwards for me. That's stuffed with the bubble wrap or plastic stuffing, right? And I really do carry these to all of my workshops, and it's so easy to make a new resource out of something for free, and and the teens really love to do that. So let me go back. Okay, so I think I said everything that's on there. Okay. There we go. Okay, so let's jump now over to the Cricut machine. And Cricut is not just for paper and vinyl and cards. It's great for cutting all those things, but it's also great for felt. I use a lot of felt, and I do have a favorite brand, which also is not paying me, called Kunin. I like it because, first of all, it's sustainably produced here in the United States. It's made from recycled plastic bottles. And in the Cricut machine, it cuts super clean. You won't have any like leftover lint and stuff like that on your beading mat with that. And so you could cut a whole bunch of pieces in different colors and then add those to your projects. Patrons could choose from that, and it would advance the process a little bit. So what you see here in the corner, this is the my anti-disposable cup cozy, right? So it saves you from needing cup sleeves. And over here in the corner, that's two young patrons sewing in the library, and that's a hand sewing project, right? So they're following a video that's being projected somewhere. But Cricut just can really advance how quickly you can do something. But there's other things that can go even faster. um, and then this is an example of raw edge applique using a Cricut, right? Where the Cricut can cut these kind of abstract shapes that then patrons with some guidance can make into artwork or something else. And if time is short, that's why I showed this picture here from another makerspace where cutting takes time, right? So the Cricut can um, advance that, and also patrons can learn how to use it as well. Um, and then moving from the Cricut to the 3D printer, um, I just love all of the kinds of things that you can do with a 3D printer. In this case, we blended it with sewing by using the 3D printer to make buttons. And we use Tinkercad. I don't know if Tinkercad is still there. I think it is, but what's really nice about it is that all you're really doing um, is making your shape. It can be a circle, it can be a square, it can be a triangle, and then with two circles inside for the buttonholes. Um, and in this case, we painted these with nail polish. And I do say the cheaper the better, because it just, I don't know why, the cheaper one sticks to the filament better. Um, and, but it is a little bit messy, and you do have to allow time because the nail polish has to dry. But in the meantime, the patrons can be sewing. And if they already know how to sew, um, you can have them working on the project. If you need to teach them how to use the machine, there's time for that as well. This one is at the Maplewood Public Library, and this intern, I think, is just finishing college now. So um, I still appreciate him so much for working with us then. But you can see how you end up with a one-of-a-kind finished project, this portfolio here. And also, you can make beads on the in the 3D printer, and you guys probably all know that, but this was from the Newark Public Library, and we downloaded an image from the Thingiverse, right, and printed it out, and it was kind of cute because Davion, who helped me here, um, said, well, it's going to be green, because that was the filament that was in there. And I said, well, not when I'm finished with it, right? So here, and just excuse, this is um, just bad cropping. But we painted it with Sharpies. So that's a silver Sharpie and red Sharpie. It does paint a little bit better if you put some white gel pen underneath. Um, and then those beads can be used to make really fun kinds of projects. This one, you see the bead in the middle, the tassel is made from embroidery floss. Um, and you could imagine that this one that has an initial on it could swap out those beads for something like that one. And then there are some programs on the Thingiverse also where um, you can make a bunch of beads, right? So it's nice because it does take a little while to print out, right? So if they make a bunch and you blend those with beads you already have on hand, or some that are from the Dollar Tree or whatever, then you can use those as well for embellishment or other kinds of projects. And the needle will usually go right through, the bead is got a big enough hole. So um, those are fun. And then the last machine that I wanted to talk about is the laser cutter. And we used a glow forge. And while most people think of laser cutters for um, things that are hard, wood and metal and things like that. They also work well on felt, although you do have to experiment with yours, and find the pressure and speed that works best for you. But they make a really lovely edge that is sealed, that washes really well. Um, and it's faster than the Cricut. It takes a little bit more planning to figure out how to use it best with your particular patrons. But they can really express themselves because the piece is cut out so quickly. And so this one is this was actually from a museum, not from a library, but she clearly loved music, right? And so made this pocket, or this is one sheet of felt, right, that we put through the glow forge with all of these cutouts. And then we attached that to a piece of fabric that became the pocket for this vest. And she knew how to sew. So she sewed around these pieces, the elements of the pocket. But if somebody doesn't really know how to sew very well, then just doing straight lines is a great alternative, and it will be secure, and it becomes part of the design, So um, there are lots of ways to blend those two things. Okay, and then I thought I would do a little demonstration that would be appropriate for libraries. This um, can be done with or without the machines, but I'll show you how that would work. So let me again stop sharing and go over to the other camera. And you can see my messy studio. Okay. Whoops, that's not what I wanted. Okay. Okay, here we are back at the ranch. And for this, to make these bookmarks, they can be in many different sizes. Right, there's a tiny one. We're going to make that size right now. Here's a bigger one. And while I cut these with scissors, um, they're just squares and they can be cut on the Cricut machine really easily. And of course, these can be cut with the Cricut. And I could imagine also putting a ribbon with a bead or something like that on it, using beads made in the 3D printer. And so all you would do, okay, you'll grab some scraps. You need 3, right? And stack them up if you're cutting with scissors. And then you'd use a square. This one is 3 by 3, but it could be, I would say no smaller than 2.5 inches, but then it can go up to 4 or 5 inches. If it gets smaller than 2.5 inches, it's going to, it won't hold on to the corner of the paper, right? So let's say we cut those out. And then you have something like this, right? And the fabric has got 2 sides, right? A bright side and a dull side. Here we'll be working with the side that we want to show, right? That's going to be the right side for the project. And you'll take one of them, whichever one you want to be in the corner like this, and you fold that along the diagonal like that. And then you just fit that into one corner. Okay, then you'll take the other piece that you have and lay it on top so that you have a little bit of a sandwich. Okay, and then you can draw a line on 3 sides, leaving one side open to stitch on. And I always like, especially when I'm just starting out, I like to have a line. It just makes it easier. Right. And then on my website, which is sewitworkshop.com, there are examples of how to thread a needle and how to tie a knot. So I won't do that here, but you're just going to sew along this line. And again, I have this pinned because I have some pins, but if you didn't, you could just hold this together with your fingers. So there's the inside piece, and then the 2 outside pieces with the sides I want to show touching, right? Now this, it doesn't really matter which side you start on. That's force of habit to start from below, right? And you can show people how to make their first stitch. And then I'm going to go around pretty quickly, like that, and do the stitching where I load a few stitches on the needle to make sure that I am respectful of everybody's time. I can take that out. And I'm just trying to keep everything more or less with the edges together. Okay. And the stitches don't have to be exactly the same. I always say don't let the perfect be the enemy of the just fine. Right? And you just continue around. Sometimes when I'm sewing, people ask how long the thread is, and I always do it about the length of my arm, just to make sure that it doesn't get tangled as I'm sewing. But for this, I have it a little bit longer just so that I can get around in a reasonable amount of time. Okay, and then one more line. You just come on down. And this will also give me a chance to show you a way to tie a knot that has been really helpful for young people and adults, I'll say. Okay, so you have it like that. And then you cut the thread nearer to the needle. And then just separate your 2 strands of thread, like that. And then you can tie those together. And when you do that, the knot goes right down to the surface of the fabric and it doesn't sort of float. Sometimes that happens. And you just end up with a nice finish that way. Okay, we trim these off. And then you can reduce the bulk in the corners by cutting them. And you can even cut off a little bit of the extra. And of course, that's going into your stuffing pile. Right, so it looks like that. And then you'll reach inside and turn this right side out. Okay. Just push out the corners. like that. And if you have, I'm going to pull this out a little bit. I also have chopsticks on hand. I just don't have any here. Okay. And so then the last step is just to fold each of the raw edges in. Although you don't have to fold them in. If you like the raw edge finish, you could just sew this together. Okay, like this. So you have the two edges touching and with no strings or anything hanging. And then you can grab another needle. Make this a little sheath. Okay, all I really need to do is just sew it. Okay, so I'm going to bring my needle on the inside. That's another little trick so that the knot here will be inside of the work. And then just motor across to finish it off. And there are lots of ways to do this as well. There are ways to close this so that it would be invisible. That's another sewing stitch that can be taught. But what is just so nice about it is all the ways that something that is as simple as this and with materials that are as easy to, get a hold of as this can make a cool little project that people can take and begin to use right away. Okay. And then we can finish this off the same way. You don't have to use all of that thread. And then just tie this. Okay, and then you would have another bookmark. You can't get too many. Bring that right to the edge. And there are ways to put this on the inside as well. But for these purposes, I'm going to put it there. Okay, and here's one of my favorite books. And you just keep your place like that. Whoops, am I in the screen? I hope so. There we go. So I hope that gives you a little bit of an idea of some things that you can do to blend makerspaces and sewing. And I'd be happy to take questions. And also so that you'll know at the end of the slide deck, there are a couple of other things. One that's on zero waste cutting and one that is on how to do tie-dye in a plastic bag so that it's not messy. So you'll have access to those too. So
Great.
Marnie, I don't know, were there
I'll
questions?
read you some questions. I'm happy to do that. We've been collecting some here in the chat. So I've scrolled up a little bit.
Okay.
Nate from Braille Institute Library has a question of, do you have any recommendations on scissor brands or sewing machine brands?
I have a recommendation on scissor brands. I think if you are doing a really nice, if you want to have really nice scissors, that the Kai scissors, Kai, they're a Japanese brand. They're very nice. They're very sharp, but they last quite a long time. Otherwise, for other purposes, I just really use a lot of Fiskars from not fabric quality Fiskars because I go through so many scissors. And then for sewing machines, I can I recommend features more than um, the brand. In honesty, they're pretty much made by the same company, although they go under different um, maker names. And so, if, Brother and Janome and Singer, they'll all be fine. Um, you just want to be sure that they can stitch about 80 or so decorative stitches. And that's not because you're going to use those stitches, but because it means that that the machine is put together in such a way that it can do that, right? And then it'll be at a better quality point. And then you want one that is mainly metal if you can. They all look the same on the outside, but if you pick them up and it's not, it look kind of heavy. If it's very lightweight, then there's a lot of plastic inside. And eventually they begin to just shake too much. The plastic cracks, the thread um, tangles, and patrons get frustrated, and so will you. Right?
Uh,
Yeah.
Great. I believe this next question was when you were sharing about the inkjet printer. Are
Yes.
you able to also print on a laser printer with those sheets, or do you not sure?
Mm, there are a couple of sheets manufacturers, I can't remember, but I'll look them up, that do laser printers. Just a couple, because I think that the process is too hot for the fabric. Um, and then but I think there are just lots and lots of inkjet ones. But if you have a laser printer, you have to experiment.
And then someone asked if you use the same technique that you did for the bubble wrap to cut up fabric, but then you showed us what you did with fabric, so that question got answered. Someone is asking if you're able to share the patterns for the donut and the cat pillow.
Oh, those are my designs. So those they're part of the videos that I sell. The pattern, so I'm not, I didn't mean to, make a commercial or anything, but the patterns come with those. There are lots of patterns online for donuts. Just ask for a sewing pattern for a donut, you'll get tons. Um, but that's what those are. Is
Yeah,
that okay,
totally
Marnie?
makes sense. And a lot of that information, I believe, is on your website as well.
Yes.
Okay, great. Do you have to have a subscription to Design Space for Cricut? If not, where do you get your designs?
You do not have to have a subscription. You have to have a subscription if you want to use the Cricut designs, but if you want to upload your own design, you can do that too. You need to know a little bit of how to convert it to an SVG file, but you can do that. And each piece of what you are designing will be separate. So um, for example, I had a fish with a crown on its head, and the crown would be separate, the fish would be separate, the eye would be separate, like that.
Got it. Someone asked if you knew the settings that you used for pressure and speed for the Glowforge for felt. If not, it's okay.
I have it, but I think it's in the far reaches of the back of my mind somewhere. I, I
Totally
want to
fine.
say it's 250. I will find it.
Okay,
Okay.
great. And you can always email it to me and I'll be able to share that out with everyone as well.
Yes, I will do that.
Okay, great. Um, Regarding the Glowforge, are you using Glowforge materials or those from other sources? They're inquiring because they only possess one but are only allowed to use the laser-proof materials from Glowforge. I can say too, from our library, we use materials that are not necessarily Glowforge approved, but similar materials. Is that something similar that you do?
That's what was done in this case,
Yeah,
was that we went through a lot of things. I don't even know if Glowforge makes a felt. Um, and one other thing about on the laser printer, wool felt will behave differently than a wool blend or than the um, Kunin felt that I was describing before,
got it.
right? So you want to test all of them.
Okay, great. Um, Somebody is asking about Oops, sorry, I lost it. How much time do you allow for teaching a group of adults for something on like an easy project, beginner project like this, like the bookmark?
Oh, an hour would be plenty,
Yeah.
maybe even 30 minutes. The hardest part, the part that will take the longest is threading the needle, threading
Mm,
the needle.
okay, great. Someone asked similar to that as how hands-on will the library staff member need to be during a Zoom sewing class?
Um, Not very much. I think that um, what I have heard, but haven't had a lot of discussion about, is that they're in the room. The way that the video works is that, actually, I have one right here that throughout the making process, I'll put up a little sign like this that says, now it's time to stop and stitch. And so then they can sew the step that I've just demonstrated. So somebody is stopping and starting the video. And I think that's the main thing. Um, and when it's older teens, they can do that themselves.
Great. Can you recommend or repeat the product that you use for printing on cotton fabric, or will that be included with the information that you share with me to send out to everybody?
It'll be included, and I'll put the one that I like, but I'll put, like several.
Others
Um,
as well?
yeah, I know you can get it online, but you might happen to be in a store, Michael's or something, and I'll put the other ones too.
Okay, great. You mentioned earlier your favorite felt for cricket cutting is Kunin felt. Are there any special types, or do they just make one type? Do they sell
Um, I
different?
like, yes, that's a great question because they do make several types, and I like their classic felt that is not heavy. Oh, it's called classic,
Mhm.
right? They have another one that's thicker, and the classic is cut really nicely with the rotary cutter on a Cricut machine.
Okay, great. We have one more question. This has had some great interaction with everybody in the chat, which is great, but how do you personally do a hand sewing program for those with mobility issues or even sight issues, like low vision?
So I don't have a lot with low vision yet. I am kind of working on that. I'm also working on working with folks um, who have autism. Um, but I do know that especially for people who can't get to the library, that the um, kits are small and flat, and it's easy to mail them for people who are shut in, that kind of thing. And then they join with the other patrons in, often, well, at that time, everybody was doing Zoom, so they would join, but they'd be able to show what they had made too.
Amazing, thank you. Someone else has said that they like to do plastic upcycling projects like book bags and aprons and such, but they're nervous about using the ironing around smaller hands. Have you or anyone else found smaller kid-friendly irons that will still do the job?
Um, that will iron plastic?
Or upcycle projects that like do maybe something like with Cricut iron-on to
Oh, I see. Okay. Um, well, you do keep it at a low heat. Um, but I usually don't really let kids who are under 10 use an iron.
Mhm.
And it's because they forget that it's on, and it's more for what might happen to somebody else because they forgot something. Um, and that's also because I'm coming to libraries one for one day. If I
Mhm.
knew the patrons, and when I've taught in sewing studios, um, then I'm with them long enough that I can really teach what the iron is and how to use it and how to respect it and all of that.
Great. And one last question from Liz. Do you also do cross stitching?
Cross stitching. My hat is off to people who do cross stitching. I can't keep count. I have
Um,
tried.
yeah, very much understand. I tried it once and it wasn't for me. But it looks like there's a lot of great resources in the chat that people have been responding to questions and sharing what other makerspaces have been doing. So once again, thank you very much to Ellen for joining us today here at Library Makers. We really appreciate that you've taken the time to be able to do that. Um, so thank you so much for joining us today. And thank you to everyone for attending our event today. We would love your feedback on today's event and also what would you be interested in for the future. Please take a moment to fill out this very short survey that we have just added to the chat. You can see all these links from Kelly. And also to get updates in future events, forums, recaps, and links to recording of events you may have missed, you can sign up for our newsletter here, which is also in the chat. And we publish bi-monthly, so we won't be spamming your inbox at all. You can also check previous recordings for our events on our YouTube channel, which is also one of those links that have just been sent. And we hope to see you join us in librarymakers.org for more chats, for more discussions. The discussions are really great. People are very active in responding and giving out their advice and questions that you may have for your community. It's a community created for library people by library people with lots and lots of ideas for maker experiences, as well as mutual support for running a successful maker program. So don't forget to enable your notifications as well. But thank you all so much for attending us and joining us today. We're so glad to have you all here, and we hope you have a great day. Thank you. Have a great day.
Thanks, everybody, for coming.
Thank you.
Bye, all. Thank you so much for coming.